I let my sister-in-law plan my baby shower. Everyone warned me she'd ruin it. When I married David 3 years ago, his sister Vanessa made it clear she thought I wasn't good enough for her golden boy brother. She'd grown up as daddy's princess in their wealthy family, used to getting everything she wanted without question or consequence. David had always been her closest ally, the one person who never said no to her increasingly outrageous demands and manipulative behavior patterns. Vanessa worked as an event planner, which gave her the perfect cover for her control issues and need to micromanage every detail of other people's lives. She'd planned David's previous girlfriend's birthday party 2 years before we met, and according to family stories, she'd deliberately booked it at a venue his ex was allergic to, causing her to break out in hives during the celebration. When David and I announced my pregnancy at 12 weeks, Vanessa's smile looked painted on her face. She hugged me too tightly and whispered congratulations that sounded more like a threat than genuine happiness. During family dinner that same evening, she made passive-aggressive comments about how expensive babies are and how much our lives would change once the responsibility hit us. My mother pulled me aside after that dinner and warned me to keep Vanessa away from anything important related to the pregnancy. My best friend Amanda echoed the same concerns when I told her about Vanessa's reaction to the news. Even David's mom, who usually defended her daughter's behavior, looked uncomfortable during Vanessa's comments about our financial readiness for parenthood. But I had a different strategy brewing in my mind, something that felt dangerous but necessary. I'd watched Vanessa manipulate situations for 3 years, always managing to look innocent while creating chaos for everyone around her. She thrived on drama and conflict, feeding off the attention and control it gave her over family dynamics and social situations. I decided to give her exactly what she thought she wanted: complete control over my baby shower planning. When I suggested it during our weekly family dinner, the entire table went silent. David's fork froze halfway to his mouth, and his mother's wine glass stopped midair. My mother-in-law's eyes went wide with what looked like genuine panic. Vanessa's reaction was immediate and telling. Her fake smile transformed into something genuine for the first time since I'd known her, and she accepted the role with enthusiasm that made everyone else at the table shift uncomfortably in their seats. She started talking about themes and venues and guest lists before I'd even finished explaining what I had in mind. David pulled me into the kitchen afterward and asked if I'd lost my mind completely. He reminded me of every horrible thing Vanessa had done to his previous girlfriends and warned me this could destroy our relationship permanently. His mother joined our hushed conversation and begged me to reconsider, sharing stories about events Vanessa had ruined through her need for attention and control. But I'd already made my decision, and I had reasons none of them understood yet. I'd been documenting Vanessa's behavior patterns for months, taking screenshots of her social media posts where she bragged about manipulating situations. I'd recorded phone conversations where she admitted to sabotaging other people's events because she enjoyed the chaos and power. My plan was simple but risky. Give Vanessa enough rope to hang herself publicly, in front of the entire extended family and all our friends. Let her reveal her true character when she thought she had complete control and no consequences. Record everything and make sure her behavior couldn't be denied or explained away later. I set up hidden cameras in our house during the planning meetings, installed recording apps on my phone for our conversations, and created a shared planning document that would track every decision and change she made. I wanted comprehensive evidence of her manipulation tactics and deliberate sabotage attempts when they inevitably started happening. The planning began innocently enough, with Vanessa suggesting elegant themes and reasonable venue options that actually sounded lovely. She showed me Pinterest boards filled with beautiful decorations and thoughtful details that made me briefly wonder if I'd misjudged her intentions. Maybe pregnancy hormones were making me paranoid about her motivations and character. But by the second week, her true colors started showing through the facade of helpful sister-in-law. She changed the venue to a location 45 minutes outside town without consulting me first, claiming the original place had double-booked us. When I called to verify, the original venue had no record of any scheduling conflict or cancellation. Then she modified the guest list, removing several of my closest friends while adding people I'd never met before. When I questioned her about the changes, she claimed there were budget constraints that required cutting numbers, but somehow her college sorority sisters had all made the final list while my childhood friends had been eliminated completely. The menu underwent similar mysterious transformations. My favorite foods disappeared from the catering order and were replaced with items I'd specifically mentioned disliking during our planning conversations. When I confronted Vanessa about it, she insisted I must be misremembering our discussions due to pregnancy brain, affecting my memory and concentration. I documented every change, every excuse, every manipulation attempt in my growing file of evidence. The shared planning document showed a clear pattern of her overriding my preferences while claiming to follow my instructions. The recorded phone calls captured her admitting she knew better than me about what would make a good party. 3 weeks before the shower, I discovered Vanessa had changed the date without telling me, moving it to a weekend when David would be traveling for work and couldn't attend. She'd sent new invitations to the modified guest list with the updated information, but conveniently forgot to inform me about the scheduling change until I found out from a confused relative. When I confronted her about the date change, Vanessa claimed she'd discussed it with me multiple times and that I'd agreed to the new schedule. She produced text messages that looked like our conversation, but something felt off about the timestamps and formatting. I suspected she'd fabricated the entire exchange using editing apps or fake message generators. That's when I decided to escalate my documentation strategy and set a trap that would expose her publicly during the event itself. I secretly changed the venue back to my original choice and sent corrected invitations to my real guest list, while letting Vanessa believe her fake event was still happening at the remote location she'd chosen. I also hired my own caterer and bought decorations that matched my actual preferences, storing everything at Amanda's house so Vanessa wouldn't discover my parallel planning. The idea was to let her show up to an empty venue while my real guests enjoyed a beautiful shower at the correct location with the right food and decorations. But Vanessa was more cunning than I'd anticipated, and she had her own surveillance methods running throughout our planning process. She'd apparently noticed inconsistencies in my behavior and started investigating my activities, discovering my secret preparations through careful observation and strategic questioning of mutual friends and family members. The Thursday before the shower, she called me with fake concern in her voice, asking if I was feeling overwhelmed by the planning process and needed her to take complete control of the final details. Something in her tone made me suspicious, like she knew more than she was revealing about my backup plans. That evening, I checked the venue I'd secretly rebooked and found Vanessa's car in the parking lot. Through the windows, I could see her inside talking animatedly with the manager and gesturing at decorating plans. She'd discovered my deception and was making counter-moves to regain control of the situation and maintain her manipulation schemes. I sat in my car watching her for 20 minutes, realizing this had evolved into something much more serious than family drama. Vanessa wasn't just being difficult or attention-seeking anymore. She was actively sabotaging one of the most important celebrations of my pregnancy, and she seemed to be enjoying the psychological warfare aspect. When David got home that night, I showed him some of the evidence I'd collected, including recordings of Vanessa admitting she'd lied about venue availability and guest list constraints. His face went pale as he listened to his sister's voice explaining how she could manipulate me because pregnant women are emotional and irrational. He finally agreed that Vanessa had crossed serious lines and needed to be confronted directly before she could cause more damage. We decided to attend her version of the shower, but bring recording equipment to capture whatever she had planned for the public humiliation she clearly intended to orchestrate. The morning of the shower, I got ready carefully, choosing an outfit that would look good on camera and hiding small recording devices in my purse and jewelry. Amanda arrived early to help with last-minute preparations and provide moral support for whatever confrontation was coming with Vanessa. We drove to the venue Vanessa had chosen, which turned out to be a community center in a questionable neighborhood, nothing like the elegant locations she'd originally suggested during our early planning conversations. The decorations were cheap and tacky, clearly chosen to make me look bad in photos that would inevitably be shared on social media. The guest list was exactly what I'd suspected. Mostly people who didn't know me well enough to recognize the decorations and venue weren't my style, mixed with a few family members who would witness whatever humiliation Vanessa had orchestrated. My closest friends and supportive relatives were notably absent from the gathering. Vanessa greeted me at the door with exaggerated enthusiasm, wearing a dress that was more appropriate for a wedding than a baby shower, and positioning herself for photos like she was the guest of honor. She'd clearly planned this event to showcase herself while making me look foolish and unprepared for motherhood. The games she'd chosen were deliberately embarrassing, designed to highlight my inexperience with babies and make me appear incompetent in front of the assembled guests. The quiz about infant care included questions about topics I'd never studied, while the physical challenges were difficult for someone in their third trimester of pregnancy. During the gift opening segment, I realized Vanessa had tampered with the presents as well. Many boxes contained inappropriate items like sexy lingerie instead of baby clothes, or gag gifts that made jokes about sleepless nights and relationship problems. The genuine gifts from people who cared about me had mysteriously disappeared from the present table, but I'd prepared for exactly this type of sabotage, and I had my own surprise planned for the finale of Vanessa's performance. I stood up during the cake-cutting ceremony and announced that I had something special to share with everyone, pulling out my phone to connect to the venue's sound system. I started playing the recordings of Vanessa's planning conversations, where her real voice could be heard admitting she'd deliberately chosen terrible decorations and an inconvenient location to make me look bad. The room went completely silent as her recorded words filled the space, confessing her intentions to sabotage the shower. But Vanessa's face went through several color changes as the recordings continued, revealing her comments about pregnant women being easy to manipulate and her enjoyment of causing family drama. She tried to grab my phone to stop the playback, but Amanda blocked her while the audio kept revealing more damaging admissions. The final recording was the most devastating one, where Vanessa could be heard laughing about how she'd convinced David's previous girlfriends to break up with him by sabotaging their special events. She'd admitted to a pattern of destroying his relationships because she couldn't handle sharing his attention with other women. David had arrived late to the shower due to flight delays, walking in just as that final recording was playing through the speakers. His face went white as he heard his sister's voice describing her deliberate destruction of his past relationships and her plans to do the same to our marriage. The guests started gathering their things and leaving without saying goodbye to Vanessa, clearly disgusted by what they'd heard in the recordings. David's mother approached her daughter with tears in her eyes, demanding explanations for behavior that could no longer be denied or rationalized away. Finally, Vanessa dropped her innocent act completely and started screaming that I'd trapped her, that I'd manipulated the situation to make her look bad. She accused me of being manipulative and scheming, which was ironically exactly what the recordings had proved she'd been doing to me and others for years. But her admissions weren't finished yet. In her rage and panic, she started confessing to other things I hadn't even suspected, including tampering with David's mail to intercept letters from previous girlfriends who'd tried to reconnect with him after their breakups. She'd been controlling his relationships for years through deception and interference. David stepped forward and told his sister she was no longer welcome at our family events, that her behavior was unacceptable and destructive to everyone around her. His voice was calm but firm as he outlined the boundaries that would now exist between Vanessa and our growing family. Vanessa's response was to grab the cake and throw it at me, covering my dress and hair with frosting while screaming that I'd ruined everything. The few remaining guests pulled out their phones to record her meltdown, capturing video evidence of her violent outburst and complete loss of control. Security arrived within minutes to escort Vanessa from the premises after she started throwing decorations and overturning tables in her rage. She was banned from the venue permanently and faced potential charges for property destruction and assault, depending on whether I decided to press charges against her. David and I drove home in stunned silence, both processing what had happened and what it meant for our family relationships going forward. The recordings had revealed years of manipulation and sabotage that went far beyond what we'd suspected, painting a picture of systematic psychological abuse disguised as sisterly concern. That evening, David called his parents to share the full extent of what we'd discovered about Vanessa's behavior patterns. The recordings provided undeniable evidence that couldn't be explained away or minimized, forcing his family to confront the reality of who Vanessa really was beneath her charming facade. Within 24 hours, videos of Vanessa's meltdown had been shared across multiple social media platforms by the guests who'd witnessed her breakdown. Her professional reputation as an event planner was destroyed as the clips went viral, showing her violent reaction when her manipulation tactics were exposed publicly. The original venue I'd secretly booked called to apologize for the confusion and offered to host a replacement baby shower at no charge, having heard about what happened from mutual connections. Amanda and my mother organized the new celebration, which took place 2 weeks later with my actual friends and supportive family members. David's relationship with his sister was permanently damaged, but his marriage to me grew stronger as he finally understood the extent of Vanessa's manipulation and control over his life. He started therapy to work through years of psychological conditioning and learn healthy boundaries with toxic family members. 3 months after our daughter was born, we received a letter from Vanessa demanding visitation rights as the baby's aunt. David responded through a lawyer, establishing legal boundaries that would protect our child from her grandmother's documented pattern of manipulation and psychological abuse. Vanessa's event planning business collapsed completely within 6 months as the viral videos continued circulating and potential clients discovered her history of sabotaging celebrations. She was forced to move to another state where her reputation hadn't been destroyed by the documented evidence of her behavior. The baby shower incident became a cautionary tale in our social circle about the importance of setting boundaries with toxic family members and not enabling destructive behavior for the sake of keeping peace. Several other couples came forward with their own stories of Vanessa's interference in their relationships. 2 years later, our daughter took her first steps at a birthday party, surrounded by people who genuinely loved and supported our family. David and I had learned to protect our peace by choosing who deserved access to our important moments and celebrations.